Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. My name is Philippe Jacques. I'm the Managing Director of AMI2030. And so we are going to have today this hybrid workshop between here in Mons, in Materia Nova, and with you online through Zoom. So the purpose of this workshop is definitively to share with you where we are. I don't know why I have this echo. I have a bit of an echo, but okay. So where we are with the finalization of the roadmap that we have been working on in this advanced materials initiative for a couple of months already now, and also to start really initiating the next phase that will be about developing the strategic agenda for advanced materials at the European level for the coming years. So what we want to do this afternoon is first to share with you some general information about the initiative, and this will be done by Fabrice Tassin, who is representing the steering board of the interim governance that we have in place for the initiative. And also really we will have an interesting introduction by the Commission, by DG RTD, by Jürgen Teacher, who is the head of unit in the Prosperity Directorate, really also explaining really what the Commission is expecting from this initiative for the coming years. Then we will go with the presentations of the roadmap, what is being achieved so far, and this will be shared with you by the respective chair of each of the working group, which are really working on the topics for the roadmap. And then after that, we would like to collect your input for the next phase, so really to identify on the different areas of intervention that we want to cover in the strategic agenda. We will really go step by step and section by section. We will go really inviting you to provide your input. What are the challenges that you feel we need to be faced, and those that and how to address this by also proposing some actions really to tackle this. So without further delay, I would like to start now. And before really going into the topic of the meeting, I really would like to invite Fabrizio Mazzeri, who is the research in charge of a research project in Materia Nova, and who is kindly hosting us here in Mons today to introduce a little bit Materia Nova for all of you. Well, you will see it's very, very connected really with the topics that we want to address in this initiative. Fabrizio, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Philippe, for the introduction. I would say I'm very proud to be here. You know, Materia Nova is the core business is to develop new materials and innovative processes for the future. So we are really connected to this AMI2030 workshop. I would like also especially to thank Philippe and Gemma for their confidence to organize the meeting here. So let me briefly introduce the Materia Nova. If you can, the next slide, please. Thank you. So Materia Nova is a private research center that was created 22 years ago. The core business is to make the scale up of new processes and new products. We call that accelerator of responsible innovation in materials and processes, and that to help industrial to reach industrialization as soon as possible. The last 4 years, we carried out about 200 projects related to this domain. We are quite well equipped, of course, with several equipments, and we have several experts for having good results in that field. Next slide, please. Try to do this in 5 minutes. As you can see, Materia Nova is on the value chain in between the university and the industry. So of course, the developments we are doing take their roots also in the fundamental research of the university, but our objective is to face the real targets and needs of the market and fit as much as possible with the action we are doing. We have also the capacity to not only to develop a technical project, but also business model related to the material and processes we are developing. Concerning the industrialization, of course, we will valorize that with several industrial partners with whom we are working on, but we have also 5 internal spin-offs dedicated to that. So BSense concern the development of new material, electrical and optical materials for sensors. ASICS is a company dedicated to wet coating technologies and surface treatments. Ionics Group, not too speed, not too fast, thank you. Ionics Groups for the industrialization of our plasma treatment technologies and electrolytic technologies. Fiteco for bio-based material and molecules for agriculture of the future. And G2, the last one, has been is dedicated to the valorization of gas reforming technologies, new technologies based on electrical process like plasma catalytic processes that you will see during for those who are concerned during the visit. All of our projects, of course, are carried out in agreement with a life cycle thinking approach. This means that we have experts also dealing with life cycle assessment, life cycle costing, and social life cycle assessment. And the idea is to to make eco-conception to a co-responsible project, and not only to develop projects for optimizing the technological aspect or the economical aspect. Yes. So we have 4 important pillars, strategic pillars of development. All our projects the last 4 years are in these 4 pillars. I'm in charge of the sustainable energy deployment, and with the objective to accelerate the decarbonization of the industry, but not only. I would just mention a project that Materia Nova and G2 installed in the recovery and resilience plan for the Walloon region of 23 million euros for the production of clean hydrogen from methane, biogas, and mine gas. This is just an example to what we can do with industrials. Second pillar concerned the reduction of risk by specific surface treatment or composite materials for the healthcare sector. The third pillar concerned a project for outstanding the performances of buildings and transport, and the last one is to minimize the waste and of course to recover material and end of life, especially polymers, for what we call the regenerative industry. And then I finish now with the last slide. Okay, this is an helicopter view where you are, for those who are present here in the room, where you are, so in the Eno Development building. Just mentioned that we have acquired recently a new building, Slabosé, which is not visitable today because it's in transformation and for receiving our future hydrogen lab, but also a lab dedicated to the production of hydrogen vectors like ammonia, or reforming of ammonia to hydrogen, and also to e-fuel, starting from CO2 and hydrogen reaction with special electrical processes. Nevertheless, for those who are present here at 5 p.m., I remind there is a lab 2. And so we will visit 6 laboratories in Materia Nova, very close from here. So thank you very much for your attention, and I wish us a very nice workshop. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fabrizio. So as I was mentioning you, I think being here is very inspiring because it's just the slide you showed about these 4 pillars. I think we are exactly at the right place really to think about what should be the priorities to address these different dimensions. Thank you very much, Fabrizio. So the next on stage will be Fabrice Tassin. So Fabrice Tassin is in charge of governmental affairs in Umicore, involved in the RNI European landscape for a while already, and Fabrice is co-chairing actually the AMI2030 interim steering board that has been put in place this summer. So Fabrice, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Philippe, and hello to everyone. I'm sorry I could not be there. It's a place of Belgium that I know well, so I would have been happy to be there, but it's not possible today. So I will share my screen, but you have to stop sharing. Okay, the slides are already there, right? I can say simply, okay. So let's start this introduction, I would say, to the AMI2030 or AMI. It all starts with a vision. So this is what is the most important, maybe first slide for you to see, which is building on the materials manifesto that is dating back to 2021, I mean, we started the process in mid of last year, but we have been doing a lot of work until now. So the vision is that in order to drive the green and digital transition, you cannot do it without having a strong European materials ecosystem, which may be obvious to us, but it may not be obvious to everyone. So that's the vision that we have. And what makes, of course, Europe different is that we try to be as inclusive as possible, and we are driven by sustainability. And when we talk about advanced materials ecosystem, this is not just those who produce the materials, but these are those who are upstream and those who are downstream from our position in the value chain. So this is the vision that we have, and that is driving our efforts today. In terms of overarching objectives, of course, we are in Europe, so we are aligning with the vision and the ambitions of Europe in the field of Green Deal, be it on climate neutrality, but it's also about maximizing the resource efficiency and, of course, minimizing the impact that we have on the ecosystem through pollution or use of harmful products. Next to that, of course, materials are key to enable digital transition. They are part of a European technology leadership strategy. They are important for the industry competitiveness, and without materials, it will be very difficult to have an open strategic autonomy in Europe. So we can go to the next slide. Next. Yeah, thank you. So looking a little bit about the structure in a way of the materials manifesto, there are 4 main drivers that are animating us in this endeavor. That's the first one, is to drive a cross-sectoral industrial innovation by looking at very many applications across all industry sectors. The second is to make sure that we are engaging with all the advanced materials stakeholders. This is not an industry play. This is not an academic play. This is all together in the same boat. Connecting to that, of course, we want to make sure we collaborate between all stakeholders, and this is the concept of materials commons that may be further detailed today. And of course, we are addressing all value chains and innovation markets, be it positive for the planet, for the people, and of course, for the economy of the Eurozone. The next slide. Yeah, so here, what are the pillars of the roadmap in a nutshell, and the 3, I would say, technological focus points. First is the digitalization of materials. So how can we merge computational and experimental science of materials with data science? And that way we could accelerate the development of materials, but we could also reduce the cost to develop these materials. Now, bringing the materials to the market means that we also have to scale up the production, and we cannot produce materials in the world of tomorrow like we did 10 years or 20 years ago. So we have to look for new manufacturing technologies that reduce the CO2 footprint, that reduce the use of some chemicals, and that are more adaptable and more agile in producing the materials that are needed by industry. And then when it comes to the priority areas for material, this is the basis that we will be using for the next step, which is the European strategic agenda. An important point, which is on the bottom of this Greek or Roman temple, this is connecting blue sky research with market demands. So this is not an applied research initiative. This is not a fundamental research initiative. This is spanning as much as possible the TRL range that I will further comment on a little bit later in the presentation. So the next slide. Yes, a concept that is maybe important to stress here, this is the concept of spillovers. So in the roadmap that we have already been generating, there are 9 innovation markets that are considered. They are quite obvious. I will not have to go too much into the details. But what is important for you to know is that in the beginning of the implementation of such an initiative, we will be looking for 1 or 2 innovation markets that can be used as a test case or use case when it comes to one approach that we have in the roadmap. So, for example, accelerating innovation with some special modeling may be used for one innovation market and another one in the beginning. And as soon as we have some confidence and some good results with the approach, we can try to replicate it to the other innovation markets. And of course, the innovation markets that are chosen for one approach may be different from the innovation markets that are chosen for another approach. So in the beginning, innovation markets will be targeted, and in the second phase, there will be a phase of replication. The next slide. Expected benefits. This is kind of more detail on something that we already touched upon, but the concept is to accelerate as much as possible the materials development, but also reduce the cost. It's also to be as, I would say, circular and sustainable as possible with minimizing resource utilization, being energy efficient, and then by extent to try to decarbonize as much as possible the production and the processing of the materials. It is about circular value chains to make sure that we are looking at circularity from the moment we design materials up until the end of the application to make it ready for the recycling. It's also about new processing solutions for materials. It's about product customization. And last but not least, the concept of digital product passports that enable the traceability and the management of the life cycle of a material is also something that is a potential benefit of the initiative. The next slide. The timeline, looking ahead, but it's also, I think, important to look behind and the genesis. I will not go back to May 2021 when it all started, but I will go back a couple of months behind with an update on September 22. From September 22, we have structured the interim phase, as Philippe was telling you. We have an interim governance that is in place. And with Lars Montelius, I'm happy to co-chair in the interim phase this initiative. And we have also started the stakeholder engagement. And if you would visit the website of AMI, you can see already all the organizations that have signed up and committed to support us. Closer to us, that's November. We are still in November. There we have started the analysis of the different instruments that you could be using in order to implement the initiative. We have been a little bit more active on consulting the stakeholders and making sure that with existing platforms, we are looking for synergies and not duplication. And the roadmap is in very good shape. And we can start now looking at the outline of the SRIA, so the Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda. Ahead of us, of course, the strategic agenda. That's the big piece of cake to eat and swallow. And of course, looking at the future instruments to make a proposal. And by the end of next year, looking ahead 1 year from now, we will be in a good shape and being able to produce and propose a an initiative that is capturing all value chains, innovation markets, and the stakeholders. The process, if you look at the timeline, we are at the bottom right. I would say we are now looking into the areas of intervention. And this is actually some kind of an intermediate step between the roadmap and the strategic agenda, where in the strategic agenda, we will be having to translate the bigger document, which is the roadmap, into a actionable plan, which is the agenda, which afterwards, depending on the instrument that is used, will have to be implemented in the best way possible. The next slide. Yes, this is maybe a bit complicated and complex, but I'm simply trying to explain it to you. But what we believe is that there is a multidimensional element when you look at the areas of intervention, and there are three key dimensions. The first, which is the obvious one, this is what you see in blue or in turquoise on the slide. This is the value chain of materials. So you start with the development, you produce, afterwards you transform and you incorporate different materials from different companies into an application that is used, and afterwards it is reclaimed and it can be recycled in most cases. If you look at the gray orthogonal boxes, these are more looking at the enablers that are needed wherever you are in this value chain. And you are talking about digital technologies, you're talking about production, processing, and analysis, characterization, technologies. You cannot forget circularity, because this is everywhere. And of course, we are operating in a regulated environment, so we have to take into account the standards and the regulatory and policy developments of today, but also looking ahead in the future as to what they could be. And actually, if you look at all these dimensions together, from the R&I activities that we would be doing, we believe that innovative results will come, and they will be serving not just one innovation market, but a couple of them, if not all of them. So this is maybe it's next slide. Yes, this is very important. Maybe I can ask you to click once again. This is about the activities. So of course you would expect R&I activities. This is of course logical, but there are also non-R&I activities that are on the right. On R&I activities, the core of AMI would be to look at TRL 3 to TRL 8, which is the typical TRL scope that is considered. But of course, if you look at an extended coverage, you could also consider going from very low TRL, where basic principles of something new are being observed, until the point that you are confident that the system that you have developed is proven in a I would say, operational environment ready for use. On the right, you have all the activities that are not necessarily R&I, but that could also be falling under the scope of AMI in the future, and they are not ranked by order of priority. So I will not list them all, but very important to consider that we can propose, for example, a sustainable framework for materials, knowledge, and data. We can contribute to regulations. We can support education and training, and we can also, I would say, incentivize or stimulate entrepreneurship without forgetting that we are part of a community, so we have to take into account public awareness. The next slide, very important, practical one. This is about how you can join the initiative for those of you who are not yet there. So who can join? I would say basically any European organization is potentially joining. Of course, you have to consider two dimensions. You have to have activities that are relevant, but of course, if they are not relevant, you would not bother. And you have to agree with the declaration of this initiative. So this is actually quite easy to check. And how do you join? You join with a few clicks online on the website of the initiative. And how can you contribute? This is, of course, depending on the time and the resources that you want to put, you can contribute different way, but you can contribute to the areas of intervention that I was talking about. And of course, you can also go to step of contributing to the SRIA, so to the strategic research and innovation agenda. And when, I would say yesterday, so you can join today, we have launched the campaign about 2 months ago already. And so you can join at any time, provided you go on the website of the initiative. And with that, I hope I was not too long. I'm happy to conclude. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fabrice. I don't know if we got some questions and if we have time for questions. Maybe we should move directly to the next presentation and to possibly open the floor for questions after the next one. So I hope, Jürgen, you are with us. I do not see
I can hear you.
Okay. So I will stop sharing my screen so that everybody can see you. And I don't know if on your side you are willing to share something, Jürgen, or if you are just going to explain verbally.
You will have the pleasure to live without slides. First of all, what a pity that I cannot join the visit with Materia Nova in Mons. So I could only connect remotely. And Philippe and colleagues, thanks a lot for this invitation so that we come in a bit with our perspective, because the AMI is a stakeholder initiative, but you're working in a close cooperation also with us. In my introductory remarks, I would like a bit to set the scene from our side. And I would like to start first, what is the problem? What is Commissioner Gabriel actually expecting from this work? What have we done under the work program 2023 and 2024? And then to see how this future initiative can also cooperate with other initiatives, not to work in isolation. So let me start with a problem, and I think it's quite important. When it comes in terms of research activities and advanced materials, we have on the one hand a very rich knowledge base. We appear to be still leading in the world, but how long will this still continue? We have noticed that in European programming, we have a fragmentation when it comes to looking for impact. We will discuss later on when it comes to spillover effects on research results and advanced materials. How is this actually getting transferred to other application areas? Also in programming, we are not very good in this. Fragmentation is really a big issue. The second one, we have a very rich researcher space. We have a strong knowledge base in Europe, but how much are they actually connected to the industry? Because the industry is in a completely different world compared to 10 years. It's no longer the cat world, it's a technology sovereignty debate. It is coping with the Green Deal. It is coping with the twin green and digital transition. So the industry needs are getting different. And there will be much more a question about speed. And this is a bit a problem not only at European level. We felt that so far also member states are not very much engaged in terms of strategic priority setting and getting it right where we want to go for this decade and for the years beyond on advanced materials. That's the first point. So we need also to, when it comes to the strategic materials, and to be very clear on what's the problem the agenda should tackle. The second one, so I have to disappoint you, this is not an info day on the work program for 2023-2024. This will be on the 12th of December for those who want to connect. And those who think, well, I'm here interested maybe to write a proposal, switch off, that's the wrong agenda. Commissioner Gabriel asked, and Fabrice Tassin mentioned it actually in May 2021, a limited group of high-level people to say what we're going to do on advanced materials. And she highlighted it under 3 priorities: speed, scale, efficiency. You will have seen and witnessed a lot about that under Horizon Europe. We would like to enhance the impact of research projects. But Commissioner Gabriel would like to take it to the next stage. Speed, scale, efficiency. The outcome has been the Materials 2030 Manifesto, where on 7 pages, we felt it's a very fascinating vision which has been put forward. On speed, there should be really a strong dovetailing on how to accelerate the design of novel materials via digital tools. Modeling, characterization, data, how to connect databases. What about the use of digital tools to accelerate the design of novel materials? The development period are currently too long. This is not only a cost factor for the industry, it's a cost factor for universities. Should I invest in advanced materials? It's also a cost factor for startups who want to scale up. So that's about speed. So for us, a strong element is this element of digitization, which was strongly defended by all the signatories of the manifesto. The second point is about scale. And the scale is a bit presented in this manifesto. We need to align better technology push and market pull. Advanced materials, how can it be brought closer to the market pull? And here we have different players. We have, first of all, the industry. So we need to have also strong participation by the industry in this initiative, because it's an offer to the industry to say, where are their future needs? I know this is not easy for many industries to say, well, we don't want to tell you which will be our future innovation markets. But we have a rich knowledge base, and it's in their own interest to find a way here in this initiative. We need to scale. This is also the reason why we have brought in, not under the manifesto, but under the AMI initiative, also the manufacturers. I'm very grateful that the manufacturer ETP has joined the ongoing work and brings in the upscaling element when it comes to manufacturing. We should not only design materials and then we have a manufacturing problem. We cannot afford this. But it's not only about speed, but also about scaling up. If you're scaling up, never forget about citizens. I had recently a discussion with one of the signatories, who is Nicole Grobert, who's from Oxford, and she's coming from the academic world, and she is also leading the chief scientific advisors in DG RTD, who clearly reported young students are no longer interested in chemistry and physics in general. They want to understand purpose, why we are doing this. So they're reflecting the next generation. Why are we doing research on advanced materials? What kind of difference it will make? So the citizens aspect will be very important. Industry will witness and look into the young generation of consumers coming up and what it means for their market. The third point is about efficiency. And efficiency in Europe is not working like in US or China. You have a big company who is working it out. We have very strong networks who should collaborate much closer together, also in a different way. And one element is here the materials commons. We'll see how this debate will go and how far we can come here. I saw it in Fabrice's slides as well. So speed, scale, and efficiency. These are 3 leitmotifs of Commissioner Gabriel. Commissioner Gabriel went out on the manifesto 3 times, which is for a research commissioner, it's quite a lot. Most recently also in October at a stakeholder dialogue, New Materials and Circular Economy Accelerator. So she's very interested. She's also impatient. So I think we're expecting also from this initiative a very solid draft strategic agenda already by February. This is very challenging, but I think if you would like to have an impact into the second half of Horizon Europe, we in the Commission need to look into what are the next strategic plan. The next strategic plan is the instrument for defining the work instruments 2025, 2020, the work programs 2025 to 2027. And the discussions on the strategic plan are starting, and they will accelerate after February, March. We are also very interested here because we expect that by the end of March, another type of materials will come in. This is a Critical Materials Act. And the Commission plans to release this act by the end of March. And this will be very important for our industries in Europe. We hear a lot. It's not only the energy prices, it's the access to critical raw materials. Do we need more mining in Europe? But from a research perspective, it's very important that also this initiative shows on advanced materials, we have something to say. You have something to say. You have something to offer. So the timing for your first proposal will be very important to consider on the Commission side. Can we take it further? How do we want to take it further? We would like to be on the one hand very innovative. So do not chase me on, will it be a co-program partnership, a co-funder partnership? Should it be a JTI? How much budget will be available? This is a bit too early. I think we need to look at a real European agenda, which should lead to a trilateral cooperation. The private side, the industry, the research institutes, the Commission, and the member states. In the form for this, we need to start developing, also starting after you have presented the strategic materials agenda. It's very important because the member states face the same problem like we do. This is fragmentation. If you have a CHIPS Act, if you have a partnership in aeronautics, are there any materials aspect? Yes or no? Somewhere hidden. This is not where we would like to end up. It has to be different. So this is about the manifesto and the Commission ambition. The work program 2023-2024, you will have noticed it has been pre-published on Monday. We will have information days on the 12th of December where proposers can take action. And you will see in the text of the topics, it actually reflects quite a lot already what is in the manifesto and which has been confirmed by the AMI initiative. Focus on innovation markets, also a major complementary support action on how can we take forward the whole digitization and data aspects in materials research. And we hope that this CSA will become a very strategic CSA, and I hope we get only one proposal. Huh? If I may be very practical, Philip, please, not 5 proposals on a CSA. Oof, very difficult. And also that this action actually involves also what is going on in member states, because on the digitization and the data aspects, I know that in Germany and France, a lot is going on. And I expect that many other initiatives are also going on setting up data platforms, testing them, engaging with the industry. And again, this should not be fragmented. This has to go together, and the CSA offers a good opportunity. My last point, and I'm conscious of timing, very important when you have shaped your ideas where you want to go, we are happy also to support you to engage with other stakeholders. So Philippe, I'm very grateful. We had recently a workshop also with the MERANETs, the ARANETs, where we got to know what they've funded so far. We have also seen the clear limits. This is important. It's important to reach out to other industries and find new ways for doing so, but also for other parallel initiatives going on, other existing partnerships, so that you build in also ideas for synergies, what should come. But one step after the other, I think, first of all, I think you need to focus on where you want to go. You have the Materials Manifesto, and you have a very rich Materials 2030 roadmap, 100 pages long, done in record time in 3 months. And we would like to encourage now to engage, to work with the Commission, so that at the next point we can hopefully finish by February a strategic materials agenda and take it from there. The Commission is very willing to take this work. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Jürgen. I think it was very clear and inspiring. So I know we are a bit late according to the agenda, but I would like nevertheless to open the floor for 2 minutes for 2 questions that you would like to address to either to Jürgen Teacher or to Fabrice Tassin. So if that's the case, please just raise your hand or put your question in the Q&A. No one, don't be shy. No, apparently both your presentations were crystal clear. So thanks a lot to both of you. I hope you you can stay part-time at least with us this afternoon, and that we can also already get a clue of the dynamic which is indeed already well present in this initiative. And even if we know that we still have challenges ahead, we are confident that we will tackle them and that we will deliver by February, like you're expecting, Jürgen. The message is well noted, as you know. Okay, so I think now it's time to move to the next part of the workshop that will be about giving you some information about really what is already included in the roadmap. So as that was mentioned by both by Fabrice and Jürgen, it's a very rich document with a lot of information that was consolidated in a record time. And well, probably it could have been better written and better structured, but at least we are sure that there is a lot of input and of insight to be identified there. So we have been working on that now for more or less a month now with the launch of since the launch of the different working groups. So I really would like to go quickly in every big chapter of this roadmap. So we have 4 big topics which are developed in this roadmap. One about material digitalization, another one about scaling up. The third one is about these policy activities, policy supports. And the last one is about the connection and the priorities of the materials innovation market. So first of these will be digitalization. So the chair for this working group is Gerhard Goldbeck, who is Secretary General, sorry, of the EMMC. So Gerhard, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Philippe. And so what we're going to do now is really, also in the interest of time, we're going to dive in straight into the roadmap. Many of you will have seen the document and be somewhat familiar with it, but some of you more. What I'm going to represent is the first chapter on the materials digitalization. So just to set the context, the objectives are to improve the management and control of the materials design, along the whole lifetime and end of life and closing the loop processes. And it's really reflecting also what Jürgen Teacher said in terms of speed, efficiency, and scalability to make these types of decisions that enable these factors more readily and better regarding the materials choices and the materials use and end of life opportunities and options, so as to better utilize the value of the material. Now, one of the key underlying objectives here is to create, or to do this by creating, a common materials data space. Too often, available knowledge and also new data are in different areas. We know the term of silos, and there is a lack of interoperability. So we need interoperability. We then also need to enable this interoperability by digitalizing and integrating a number of technologies, creating synergies. So when we talk about technologies, some are shown also in the graphics here from the roadmap. This could be synthesis and processing, materials properties through characterization and modeling. So we have all of these, which I will go into and which the roadmap goes into, which are the data sources to generate data and knowledge. A system can be only federated and and harmonized in an interoperable infrastructure if all of these data are properly digitalized. That means documented, described in a commonly understandable, interoperable way, then stored and managed for access, ready access, and utilization in many different ways, right? Not just in a single way, as often today, but really to exploit and valorize the opportunity in the data as much as possible. So that's the overall scenario. What we have in the roadmap are basically 4 topics around that are the 4 already shown in the previous slide. These are generating new data, documenting and describing data, managing data and access to the data, and then using and processing these data. And as you can see also on this chart here, that really forms a loop, right? Because actually, as we know from material science, you may start with a challenge, then you see what data are available, which can already be the first hurdle, and then you want to use and process them, but then there's some data lacking, you generate new data. Also, you have to make sure that the system is fed with that information by properly documenting them and having systems in place that can manage them. So, and then you go around the circle again. What the roadmap has is now a subsection for each of these 4 topics, right? I will go through this cycle now and explain each of these. So the first one is new data and knowledge for materials design, process, and scale up. So these better decisions rely on multiple sources of data and knowledge based on modeling, characterization, production, testing, covering the whole advanced materials life cycle. And we need an optimization and harmonization of those. There are a number of priorities listed already in the roadmap, and we've had done surveys, we had expert meetings of the working group and also sub-teams. And so we have here an updated list of priorities from that. So this reflects 4 underlying technologies such as advanced materials characterization with all of the advances in place, including, for example, high throughput operando in situ, but also improvements of large-scale facility integration and open innovation testbed integration into digital workflows, modeling development, making them robust, user-friendly, and interoperable, and again, easy to integrate into workflows. So this is a strongly recurring theme here, is reflecting the overall arching objectives of the roadmap in terms of harmonization, also in the third one, and integration of multi-technique workflows, able to generate multi-source, multi-fidelity data depending on the need. Right? And here we see also coming in, again, an overarching objective to make better decisions, informed decisions, but also decisions depending on a number of criteria. Then we have a lot of data generation now from robotics platform, fabrication technologies, and so on. So we need to integrate those and collect those data into the system. And then even before we go into describing, storing, etc., these data, we have to make use, because of the volume of data, also advanced data analysis and AI-based tools to handle those workflows from raw data to results. And then the digitalization of the instrument itself is, of course, reflected in that. Now we go, okay, so we've done this, we've integrated all of the different systems here. Now what happens to the data? Of course, the big term that is known is making data fair, right? And this is really what is very much behind this part of the chapter, to ensure that the valuable resource that data are is much better used and much more widely available and in a meaningful way. So what we need for that is for material science to establish a common language. That means the concepts, the vocabularies for semantic machine readable documentation of materials data. This is a trend in many other fields, health, manufacturing, and so on, finance, etc., that we see now as a key underlying enabler to achieve here the objectives. So again, that breaks down following the roadmap and the expert input into a number of priorities, such as the interoperable taxonomies and ontologies. Also, looking at materials, right? What we have now, we have materials described in, for example, the bill of materials. Is that sufficiently described and documented to enable all of the things that we want to do with the material, for example, at the end of life? Right? So this could be supported by better ways of describing what a material actually is, and we need to work on that. And that also supports the safe and sustainable by design agenda, because here again, we're developing materials documentation standard certification scheme. So we have to have a very good kind of registration and knowledge about how we describe materials themselves. That helps the understandability and reproducibility as well, validation, verification, which again comes back to key information for decision making. Can I trust the data, for example? And in this field, we also, this is an overarching thing as well, but especially in this field, there is a need for education and training in this type of semantic data documentation. Now, okay, so now we have the FAIR data, but they still need to be managed, and I have to be able to harvest the full potential in this common materials data space. That has to reflect the way people work. Not every company and so on wants to obviously work in the same database system, but we can create a data space as is being done in other fields, and also respecting, of course, EU rules and governance and IP, etc. So a federated data management would be underlying the data space as a priority. We have to facilitate the access, ensure the transparency and trusted data exchange, right? So the data sometimes are available, but the exchange isn't possible for supply chain, confidentiality, trust, etc. reasons. And traceability is, of course, important also for the certifications, etc. And also at that point, additional actions could look into making these data more curated and even increasing the value of the data for further use. So then we're getting to the utilization of the data, where we have to ensure that we can really effectively exploit it. There are many developments in digital technologies, in particular around artificial intelligence, digital twin technologies, and so on, that can be used to combine the different data streams and processes and address new challenges. So here the priorities is, first of all, to have overarching systems such as marketplaces and technology platforms that can give that are able to combine different data sources, so that I can utilize them more effectively. And I need to then be able to explore those data, query those data in a more efficient way. And in the third point, mine the materials information also during service and maintenance and closing the loop and support lifecycle assessment. I need to gather, process, and manage the data using, for example, AI, right? So there could be also then very large, high velocity as one says data and I need to somehow process them in order to use them better, and develop digital twin strategies for different parts of the life cycle and for processes, and validate heterogeneous data processing and data correlation tools to transform them into new experimentally testable hypotheses. So these are all priorities to make better use of the data. So that's all I have, hopefully reasonably in time, of the working group 1.
Thanks a lot, Gerard. In time indeed. So we are not going to open the discussion now, because maybe what I should have explained before is that the second part of the workshop, that we want to be much more interactive. We will come back actually on the different priorities, and we will invite you to comment them, to come with what your opinion, what are the main challenges we are facing regarding these priorities and what are the specific activities that you would like to see launched under this umbrella. So we will come back on that later. So I propose that we move directly to the next topic, which is about this scaling up activities. I'm still struggling. I'm not sure that scaling up is really the best word, because this one for me is a bit ambiguous. It's not only about bringing the technologies to a higher TRL level, but it's how really we embrace all the manufacturing, production, processing activities at the same time that we are working on the development of materials, actually. But José will be explaining that much better than I can. José, the floor is yours.
Actually, good afternoon. Actually, Marta will be doing it because she was able to join us. Thank you very much.
Okay, so sorry, I saw that she was not in. So Marta? So Marta Calderas is the chair of the is what we call our working group 2 on material scale-up. Marta, are you with us?
I thought she was with us.
No, I'm afraid not.
No? Okay, then in that case, let me I will make the presentation, not a problem, because I have the slides here and I can do it so that we don't lose more time. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Because I will share my screen then.
Oh, Marta is just posting a message that she will connect in a minute.
Okay, okay. Then let's wait a little bit. Thank you.
Okay. Otherwise, what we could do maybe is to, I don't know who is going to also present the topic on policies. Okay, so we are not ready. Okay, so let's wait for Marta. I hope when she says that she will connect in 1 minute, that she has a better meaning of what 1 minute means. When I say I come in 1 minute, people tell me after 5 minutes that the minute was quite long. I'm afraid she has the same watch supplier than I have. Yeah. Okay, so maybe let's move to working group 3 on policy support. Okay. Okay, so this topic will be presented by Christian Seitz from Suschem. So Christian.
My pleasure. Good afternoon here in Mons and to all the other people in the virtual room. I'm happy to present the current status of Working Group 3 to you in the name of my chair and my co-chair, Flemming Cassé and Justin van Schepen, who are heading this group. And if you could go to the next slide, please, Sharon. Thank you. The targets for this working group is about definition and description of measures for the policy frameworks for advanced materials. That sounds very generic, I guess, and it's indeed it's the basket for all the topics that are not necessarily related to technologies and to markets. Louder? Sorry. Thank you. I take that. Okay, and we want to propose in that working group measures to the legislation, to the standardization, to funding scheme as well, to the innovation process. I guess that's very necessary. Also to abstract a little bit from the hard legislation that is related to advanced materials as chemicals also that are going behind. And last but not least, also education and communication. Next slide, please. When we come to the engagement in this working group, we have so far 98 registered experts that has been registered for working group 3, coming from all kinds of organizations with a special emphasis on the research and technology organizations, but this is something we found for the whole initiative so far. Of course, concrete participation is a bit lower. We had in the 2 working groups meetings, workshops, we had so far a participation of 11 and 14 people who contributed. And finally, 8 people gave their written comments and their inputs on the survey so far. And we're also able to refine a little bit the input. Next slide, please. Thank you, Sharon. With the existing priorities in the roadmap, all of the surveyors and experts agreed with a slight, let's take a little bit less ambition and with some minor changes on the priorities. So that's on the one side, all what is related to SSBD, the concept that is currently going into place. The next priority for policy support is a harmonization of the norms and standards in Europe regarding advanced materials. A third priority in policy is robust and safety protocols to ensure safe environment for the European citizens. And last but not least, education and training across the value chains. And if we go to the next slide, then we see that we can finalize the roadmap. That's a good thing. We want to be at the end of November with some minor changes we had been proposing, with the emphasis on internationalization, the implementation on NSPD. Of course, also here the link to other initiatives. Jürgen Tietje mentioned that, the partnerships that are already in place, but also other organizations and initiatives that are dealing with advanced materials. And of course, it's a cross-linking function with the policy support. You see that especially with the data, there's some linkages existing, and we have to take care that we take up the requirements of the other working groups also here in the policy field. For all that, we think it is necessary to restructure that a little bit, and I'll come to that in a minute, to make that from the hierarchy point of view for the policies a little bit more efficient. But this is the next step then, what we have on the agenda for the SRIA document. So far, we feel comfortable with finalizing the roadmap document, and we will start today with the collection of input for the SRIA, where we see also new fields. Jerome, if you could go then to the last slide. The next steps will then be, we want to map existing frameworks, legislation, standards regarding material and data flow along the value chains. There's a lot what is out there, but is not consistent for good reason, of course, because the applications are something different than the invention. We want to identify what are supporting, what are upskilling legislations, and if possible, identify best practices to give a good example, and the value chain analysis with regard to the information needs of each of the steps, starting from development to manufacturing to use phase, and then to end of life, and to close the circle then also with the recycling steps. To give you a taste of what's going on currently, the very final slide then. what is about policy support. So we have on the right-hand side the existing priorities with some starting points, the harmonization of norms and standards, but also certification here. We have existing organizations, associations, contacts submitted by the experts. And now we want to make sure that for each of these, let's say, starting points, we have a couple of experts that could contribute with content and to enrich the CIRA then. On the left-hand side, we have additional topics that were mentioned by the experts. So starting from the innovation-friendly environment funding, IPR legislation is there, but also inclusion, internationalization here, the implementation and integration of the regulations. So topic here is regulatory sandboxes. And we are quite happy to have here a large network of experienced experts that has bring back the experiences from the Nano Safety Network, and I guess that's very valuable to have them on board. With that, I would conclude here. Thank you very much. I'm happy to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christian. So let's go back to material scale-up. I think that Marta is now with us. Yes, she is.
Yes. Hi.
Hello.
I'm sorry for to arrive on me now. So I will share my screen, right?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, just a quick sum up what have been done in the area of material scale up. So this area was very participated. It involved a lot of feedback from the stakeholders and valuable content to refine and to better understand what are the objectives and the priorities in this important topic. So we all know that material scale up is challenging and needs a lot of investment. Therefore, it's better to try to identify the cross-cutting issues and then facilitate the cross-fertilization for the different applications. That's why the three main objectives of this group was identified in this group was to, in order to advance or promote and improve material scale up, there is a need for efficient collaboration between the advanced materials development and uptake. So this means involving all the stakeholders from the beginning in projects, in initiatives, trying to define common challenges and common needs, and also facilitate cross-fertilization of developments made for several applications in order to be transferred to all of the materials innovation markets, and of course, improve material scale-up sustainability, develop processes that are able to promote sustainability. Some cross-cutting challenges that were identified along the value chain, but also in the common processes to materials development were process optimization. All the process will need higher speed, flexibility, resource savings to achieve better results, decarbonization, mass customization, zero defect production, circular economy, multi-materials processing, and new materials processing. Then, for this to happen, we identify the priorities that are needed in order to establish a framework, an ecosystem that can help promote the scaling up of materials. And aligned with the objectives, we need to strengthen the strategic collaboration between materials, digital, and production technology stakeholders and technology platforms, including joint road mapping avoiding overlapping and aligning the different needs and challenges. Include the development or adaptation of the respective digital and production technologies in advanced materials, components, and products, research and development projects to cover all the value chain, to increase the TRL levels and reduce the time to market. And this can be done in several ways. For instance, through open laboratories or pilot lines. So here the link to the value chain, also related with the objective of sustainable material scale-up, the eco-developed materials processing and products for sustainable solutions. And here the link to data, the development of channels to support the data exchange and sharing between materials, development, digital, and production technologies. And finally, the link with the previous group, the promotion of collaboration between the different initiatives. And finally, what we have done was, after identify the commonalities of the challenges, try to really justify that these are the challenges in processing and production technologies that are relevant for the 9 materials innovation markets. Today, we want to advance for the strategic agenda and the discussion today to really identify what are the challenges and the activities in each of these lines of the matrix. What are the challenges that are common to all of the innovation markets? And so this was the main conclusions of our group, our development of the work in the materials scale up. If you have questions or need any further information, please ask.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Marta. So we will now move to the working group 4. Can you share directly? Okay, so okay, that's it. So the floor is to Eva Schillinger.
Thank you very much, Philippe. And I would like to conclude today's session on the sharing of the results obtained in the working group so far by sharing with you a bit of what we have done in working group 4. Working group 4, next slide, please, was focusing on the 9 materials innovation markets and pre-proposed priorities under these 9 markets. So for each of the markets, as you in an exemplary table can see here, 3 to 4 priorities were suggested and were accordingly validated and commented by the experts that worked with us in working group 4. Next slide, please, Jérôme. So the process to date actually foresaw the input givers' expertise on everything that was proposed in the draft roadmap. And I can say that we had probably by far the most extensive portfolio with respect to both markets that we took care of, but also the priorities and the individual aspects summarized here under. So I can tell you that at peak times, we had more than 120 participants in our calls, and you can imagine that the feedback that we gathered was very rich in detail and covered a very broad range, actually, of the aspects that we tried to depict here. So next slide, please. This is also why I decided to today present you with a bit of an example of the input, because the consolidated form for sure will go then into the roadmap. But as an example, I brought here the medical and health market, and under medical and health, the priority of the advanced surfaces. So we basically had 2 rounds in which we collected inputs. We had a very detailed discussion going very much from very broader and general statements into very specific areas of materials needs in the individual markets. Nevertheless, a clear trend that we could see is specifically for medical and health is the need for further individualization and personalization of materials within this market in order to advance here and to make a contribution. Next slide, please. A category that we paid a lot of attention to because we did not only ask for validation and comments on the proposed priorities was also to an invitation to the experts that participated to come with additional comments or additional categories that might have been overlooked so far. Large and by here, we also captured some very, very interesting comments and some very interesting aspects and views that were the basis for further discussion in the work group meeting so far. Nevertheless, large and by actually, we could confirm that the roadmap draft so far has caught onto all of the major priorities in especially the market of medical and health. If you could go to the next slide, please. So another one of the 9 materials innovation markets is the energy sector. Here again, we had a very high number of input givers in the energy market, which is also reflected in the very detailed and rich comments and input that we got. And if you could go to the next slide, please, Jérôme. Also here, there was really the need for further clarifying some of the aspects for also and to have the opportunity to even add to the predefined priorities. So Jérôme, if you could please go to the next slide. Same as in the other working groups, also for the 9 materials innovation markets, a set of 7 plus 1 open, so to speak, commonalities was pre-suggested. Some of them being rather broad enabling technology platforms, some of the commonalities also having more slightly different character, not so much a material class themselves. We collected input as to whether these commonalities are clearly seen and clearly can be seen as beneficial for all 9 materials innovation markets. I'm actually showing you this one here because one of the commonalities that were proposed from the draft roadmap was the commonality of the need for bio-based and degradable materials. And exactly this one in our last working group meeting that we actually had this morning sparked an interesting discussion as to there is no need for biodegradable materials. There is a clear need for materials that can go into circularity much more than that they need to be degradable. So this actually led to the fact that, next slide please, Jérôme. This led to the fact that large and by, I can confirm that for working group 4 and across the 9 materials innovation markets, appropriate priorities and the right priorities were proposed and identified up front. But thanks to the input, the very vast, extensive, and partially also very detailed input that we actually got in working group 4 from the participating experts, we realized that there is a couple of redefinitions necessary regarding the list and the scope of the proposed commonalities that we have been working with so far. And this is clearly something that will help us in setting up the strategic research agenda, and that will also happen accordingly. There was a number of recurring inputs for our working group, and those were mainly in overlap with the scope of the working group 3, clearly needs for standardization, holistic impact assessment approaches and tools. But we also had quite a bit of input that was an overlap with the working group 2, and which went in the direction of processing equipment manufacturers and general manufacturing challenges within the innovation markets for these advanced materials. And that brings me to the end of the presentation.
Thank you very much, Eva. Thanks to all the working group chairs or the representative today. I think we have time for a Q&A session. So what we are planning to do is to have a break that will lead us to a quarter to 3 or 20 to 3, 20 past 3. So we have for sure 10 minutes that we can allocate to questions on what has been shared up to now. So don't hesitate here in the room or in online. Just raise your hand and we will open the access to the mic so that you can really raise your question live. I think it's sometimes easier than just putting questions in the Q&A. Or you can of course also decide to go for this way and just writing your question in the Q&A. So I think we have one hand raised from Michael Morris. I don't know. Can you talk now, Michael?
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, hi everyone, and some nice presentations, so thank you. I just want to raise some points about sustainability, which we heard as a key focus from the highest level is how to integrate concepts such as circularity into advanced materials. I think there's very significant challenges there. The first of which I think seems to be what we understand as sustainability, and the use of life cycle assessment. So life cycle assessment measures environmental impact. It doesn't per se measure sustainability as in the ability for us to maintain resources for future generations. It simply measures environmental impact. The other challenge that we have with LCA at the moment is that there's no accepted form of multi-life cycle LCA. So a proper detailed life cycle assessment that will give us that kind of information where things may go through several generations. At the moment, we treat it in a ad hoc way and we sum up each life cycle separately, but there isn't an accepted form of doing it. Life cycle assessment in itself is tortuous if it's going to be used properly. And I think one focus of digitalization, I think was picked up on, was the need to data mine using AI. But I think the other thing that's important is perhaps creating data points for people to put data in, both in terms of life cycle assessment and circularity. And again, there's no information available to users on how or what constitutes a good circularity measurement and assessment. So we have to be very careful about concepts such as circularity unless they're going to be embedded properly through the program. And I think at the moment there needs to be real effort for defining what we mean by circularity, our understanding of circularity, and how we measure and assess that, and how that's complemented by life cycle assessment. But life cycle assessment is far from perfect, and we really need to stop using life cycle assessment as shorthand for sustainability measurement.
Thank you very much for this input. I'm not personally an expert in LCA, but I think that what you are mentioning here is resonating a lot with what I heard already, that indeed there are still gaps in order really to be able to to translate to this circular economy in a sustainable way. So there are a lot of challenges that need to be tackled and addressed in parallel and really in very close complementarity, which I think and the points you were mentioning are definitively, I think, also included in the priorities of the roadmap. So indeed, it's not a done deal yet. Huh?
Yeah, but I think we have to be careful about the fact that if we're making people do sustainability assessments, and that's what legislation from Europe and the rest of the world is going to make us do, that doesn't become another roadblock towards innovation. Because LCA takes practice, most companies do it through consultancy, and we don't want, to impose through legislation and policy very big sanctions on companies having to do this that don't provide a roadblock to adopting new materials because they're less well understood. And that is a challenge.
Yeah. I guess you heard about this safe and sustainable by design approach, which is now developed at the European Commission level with the GRC who publishes this framework. I think that we are expecting now for the coming weeks or months, I don't know exactly, the recommendation that the DG wants to publish on this aspect. And that's indeed, I'm very curious to see how this approach will be used, or let's say will be exploited in a way that indeed will not be harmful for innovation, but on the opposite, that will be supporting innovation, so that we are not just having to deal with an additional bureaucratic approach on what needs to be demonstrated before we start working, but that really we have more some kind of clear guidelines how to address the correct points without really being really too going into administrative and only bureaucratic approach. So that's indeed the one of the points that. But again, it's up to us. I think we have an opportunity here to tackle and to propose. Which, well, I think there is no, for me, there is no obvious solution, but at least we have the opportunity to come with proposals on activity, how to tackle this, and that's a very valid point.
Yeah, well, digitalization is so important for us to do that. That's why that piece about how we access, how we get data is so much more important going forward, because it will become more and more a requirement.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I don't know if someone else would like to take the floor for another question. Yes, Fabrizio.
Thank you. No, yeah. No, I was wondering concerning development, innovation of and scale up of new materials. It was mentioned several times that cross-fertilization is a main driver. Is it possible to have from working group leaders examples of such kind of cross-fertilization for some particular material? Can you give us some example mentioned by experts?
No. Yeah. Marta,
Yes.
I think that one was for you.
Yes, I'm here. So actually, we have a lot of examples. I think that we could not see them because the table was too short. Just let me give you here some examples that were in the matrix in my final slide. So, for instance, in the process optimization challenge, there were several. This is a common challenge to the development of most of the materials for all the applications, right? I'm having some problems with my computer, I'm sorry. What we have discussed, although we have several examples, was more like the common challenges. So higher speed, flexibility, resource savings, energy, water, and of course for each application, this can be common to different processes. And we didn't want to get into much detail at this stage before having decided what will be the main priorities for each of the innovation markets for the type of materials. But for instance, in the new materials processing, we have additive manufacturing technologies. We had advanced bio-based processes, nanofabrication. So these were some of the examples that were given in a just more general way. I don't know if I replied to your question.
One example of materials for energy storage. Can you hear me now? Yes, it's better. Great. So one concrete examples are materials for energy storage that will be used for stationary applications, for mobility, for Internet of Things, and so on. So that would be somewhere where materials for a specific functionality, being an electrolyte, being an electrode, we will find application in different places, in buildings, constructions, in transport, and so on. Yeah. So that would be a place for commonalities.
But I'm not sure that the question of Fabrizio was about do we have commonalities in the way the materials can be serving the different markets, but more what are the synergies regarding processing tools or processing approach regarding the development of materials.
Yeah.
I think that one of the point, just to answer this part, I don't know if you know about this open innovation testbed that were also supported and financed by the Commission, and that's typically this kind of activities that I think that we could also try to capture and to support in the AMI2030 initiative, which is identifying how we need to develop some technology infrastructures that really would be flexible, that would be open to SMEs, to different stakeholders, really to come and test and really upscale the technology to in a way that would avoid them to also invest in this piloting equipment, for example. So that's, I think, one of the very practical activity that we could consider on to address this point.
Okay. So just concerning developments of materials in Materia Nova, so I have an example. We have developed special alloys, triple metal alloys for anti-corrosion and durability problems. And now we have observed that these materials could be helpful for the preparation of electrodes in electrolyzers with new outstanding properties. So this is an example also on material, transfer material. But as you mentioned also, I agree with you. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other question raised or no? I don't see any. So I think we are perfectly on time, Jérôme. Yeah, so I propose that we stop now for a quarter, so for 15 minutes, and we reconnect at 20 past 3. 20 past 3. No, we restart sharp at 20. Yeah. See you.
But we'll have about 1 hour or slightly more to work together. So we will go through this Mentimeter exercise to start collecting inputs from you, the experts connected and here present in the room. So I will take some time first to explain you the process to be sure that it is very clear to you, because you will see we won't have that much time to go through the whole exercise, and it will be very dynamic. Series of questions asked to you with short time to answer them. So it's important to take these 10 minutes to start introducing the process to you. And then the exercise itself will be split in 2 parts, as you can see on the screen. The first one addressing the so-called cross-sectional enablers, which is one of the 3 dimensions of the areas of interventions. And the second part will be dedicated to these materials innovation markets. So let's start now with a slide you have seen already presented by Fabrice at the starting of the workshop. I take 1 more minute to come back to this information because it's quite important for us. So this is this concept of areas of intervention that we have put on the table and to bridge the roadmap with the upcoming strategic agenda. So this is a way for us as well to pre-structure or to structure the agenda. And that's a structure we will be using today, you will see, in order to collect inputs from your side. So here you see basically 3 dimensions. The first one are the blue horizontals, which are representing the materials, advanced materials value chains. So it starts top with the advanced materials development and production. Then it goes to the transformation and integration of these advanced materials into components, products, and systems. Then it is the use phase. And finally, the end of life of the product, which we would like, ideally, to feed back into the first segment, so to have a circular value chain. Then vertically, we have what we have called the cross-sectional enablers. The first 2 are technological enablers. So first one being the digital technologies, the second one being the production, processing, and characterization technologies, while the 2 other ones are non-tech enablers. The first one being about circularity approaches, and the last one covering standards, regulations, and policies. And finally, we have this third axis, vertical or encompassing the first 2, that is somehow making a 3D matrix, you can imagine it. And that at the crossing of these 3 dimensions that we will go investigating and designing what will be in the future, the support we want to give in terms of RDI around advanced materials. So we will be working at these cross sections, these crossroads, crossings, and now we will get into the survey, into the Mentimeter. But as we cannot practically work on a 3D structure, we will cut it into 2D structure, and we'll start the collection of information. So first part, and you see top left, the picture where we only have these 2 axes of the value chain and the cross-sectional enablers. So basically, we will go from one enabler to the other one, 1, 2, 3, 4, one by one, sequentially. And for each enabler, bottom left, we will ask you the very same question. So for the sake of simplicity, we wanted to have the same question always through the survey this afternoon. And this question will actually call for 1 answer from your side, but constituting of 3 different information. So the first one will be the major challenge. So we'll ask you, based on the priorities that were set in the roadmap and reminded already previously, based on these priorities, to give us some example of what you see as a major challenge that we should consider. And then as a second information, also to tell us what kind of activities you would propose to tackle to address this challenge. And finally, third information, to let us know which segment of the value chain should be covered for these activities. So you see one question, one answer with 3 informations in it. And there will be also one additional question for enabler 2, the one on production and processing and characterization. And there I will ask you about these commonalities we have discussed just before. So you see here, we have got 5 questions only. And then on the right-hand side, you see what will be displayed on your screen, the Mentimeter. So the tool, we couldn't harmonize the text, so it's not that nice visually, but basically what you will have on the screen at the top is a box reminding you these priorities we have discussed already, okay? Then below, just below the box, you see a reminder of the 4 segments of the value chain, 1, 2, 3, 4. It will be bigger on your screen. So please prepare your laptop and phones. Then there is some text telling you that you must provide one challenge per answer, but basically you can provide several answers, okay? But one challenge per answer. And as I said already, then you provide the challenge along with suggested activities and the position, the segment of the value chain. And then in bold, you see the question. So the question is, for instance, here for the first enabler, what are the major challenges Europe is facing that are addressed by the digitalization priorities in the roadmap? That's the question. Then you will have this box below with a maximum of 250 characters, and then you submit. So as simple as that. And then to be a little bit more concrete, because it was important for us to capture the right level of information, so to be clear on the granulometry. We don't want you to get into too much details, but remain rather general. So here you see again on the left the structure of your answer, challenge plus activity. So one challenge, but activity you can mention a few. And then the VC segment, max 250 characters. And on the right-hand side, you have got 4 examples for the 4 enablers. So the first one, that's an example again. And I read it. The challenge there would be the lack of data for decisions on materials use range extension. And proposed activity could be a common digital system for existing data from multiple sources combined with modeling and artificial intelligence. And that would address the segments 3 and 4 of the value chain. Segment 3 is the use, and 4 is the end of life. Enabler 2, other example, the challenge there would be the eco-design of products and processes. Activities proposed, for instance, the use of digital twin technologies and methods to design and develop the materials and respective production processes. And there, the segments would be 1, 2, and 4. Example 3, on circularity, the shortage of precious metals from energy applications. Activities there could be to work on the recovery and refining processes that have to be sustainable, and that would obviously address the end of life segment of the value chain. And the last example on standardization and regulation and policies would be here the lack of transparency on norms and regulations regarding advanced materials. The activity could be a mapping study of existing ones, and that would cover this time the full value chain. So again, you see the level of information we are inviting you to provide in the Mentimeter. So that's for part 1, again, the cross-sectional enablers. And the part 2 is a bit of the same, in fact. But this time, we drop off the enablers. We are only looking at the materials innovation markets. So that's the dimension 3, okay? And we will go one market after the other, 9 of them, asking the very same question So there will be 9 questions in a row, plus an additional one, which that time will be dedicated to advanced materials commonalities. Before it was about production and processing commonalities. This time it will be about the advanced material commonalities. And on the right-hand side, you see the same format from the Mentimeter. The priorities reminded at the top, then the VC segment, some indication to remind you that it is one challenge per answer, then the question, the same one, then the bugs for you to reply. Last slide. So in total, 5 plus 10, 15 questions using Mentimeter. With the time we have, it's about 4 minutes per question, you see, so it's not that much. So we'll have to go fast. I will be the timekeeper. And we'll have also the help of our chairs while we are collecting, Mentimeters, we see your inputs coming on the screen. So as they are appearing on the screen, our chairs will do some live commenting of the results to make the exercise more lively. So now I propose to start, and I will switch to the Mentimeter page. Okay. So I invite you to go first to the menti.com page, then to enter the code or capture the QR code. I give you 3-4 seconds, but no more. So hopefully that should be okay by now, but I don't want to lose anyone. Okay. Okay, let's start then. So first, that's the easiest question. Please give us your name. And that will be a way for us as well to retrieve the data after the workshop. So it's important that you complete this one, and that should be easy. We'll go very fast. Okay, with your name. Next, another easy question. Last one, in which country are you based? Okay, so Belgium, the hosting country, Germany, France, and lagging behind quite a few other countries. Okay, move to the now, starting this part one, remember about the cross-sectional enablers, the verticals inside the areas of interventions. So these enablers, first one is about digital technologies, first on the left. So here, the box should not be that small on your screen. It is on the main screen, but not on your laptop normally. But these priorities you know about by now. So please take the time, take these 4 minutes to answer the question. Remember what challenges you see based on these priorities. That will be important to address in the future. Plus, kind of activities you would propose to address this challenge. Plus, the segment in the value chain, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1 is advanced materials development, 2 is transformation and integration of materials, 3 use, 4 end of life. Gerhard, if you are connected, don't hesitate to do some commenting of the inputs we see appearing on the screen.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So we have, they're also cycling through, so we have to be quick. The availability of data, okay, that's important. I think, yeah, it's important one here also understanding materials properties over lifetime. I think the lifetime aspect is a key one that also came to my mind, especially when it because the properties obviously change quite a lot due to degradation, lifetime use, and so on. So then we have the country aspects that are very important, and the interoperability in common databases. So these were obviously challenges that were mentioned already. I'm trying to pick up the willingness to share, definitely key challenge that we need to address with very good systems to have the interoperability. Fair access to the databases, curation. I think I mentioned that as well. So that's kind of related also to the trust. Energy need for digitalization of computing technologies. That's a very good point. Of course, we are developing, we are using digital computing technologies, but they in themselves obviously need to be very much also sustainable. Very good point. Energy efficient computing, heterogeneity of data. So again, we have this aspect. We have a lot of initiatives now, and also national initiatives, international initiatives, and the coordination becoming very important here. Data exchange. The complex. There was just one going out of the screen with, I think, again, reflecting, I think, an earlier point, also the complex behavior of materials and, in for example, multi-phase and so on. Are we really able yet to capture that well? So there's quite a lot to do on, not just on the sharing of the data, but also on the data quality and data for certain conditions that I think we need to really highlight and emphasize from the innovation markets, and be quite selective of where the field is really addressing, have activities.
Thank you, Gerhard.
Carry on.
Sorry, I'm being very unpolite, but I will cut you. But thank you very much. I realize it's not that easy to comment in live. Please try to be complete in your answers. And first information we need to capture is a challenge. You understood. So now I'm switching to the second enabler about production and processing and characterization. Sorry, I forgot technologies. Same question again. Let's start. And Jose or Marta, if you are connected and okay to do the same exercise of commenting the inputs, please go ahead. 4 minutes. So we need a little time to get the first inputs written and posted. Yeah, here they are appearing.
Yes, this was one of the activities that was discussed about the pilot lines, open labs, technology infrastructures. These were all mechanisms that were discussed and are part of the priority 2. Availability of secondary materials, of course, it's relevant. It's a challenge for priority 3 about the sustainability. The measuring, what was here, we need new tools, new frameworks, new methodologies for sure. And bio-based processes was also one of the type of materials that needs scaling, have very challenging scaling up issues. Again,
for the ones giving only numbers, be more explicit because we won't be able to process this information. So are you talking about the priorities? Are you talking about the VC segments? We cannot know. Yeah, sorry, Marta.
No problem. It probably is the VC segments that didn't fit in the answer, I guess. But again, the link to recircularity, recycling technologies, but we are considering the all sustainability aspects from design to end of life, not only recycling, but recycling is included. Accessible elements, that was also another issue mentioned during the discussions, very relevant. New models for eco-design and modeling, which is also mentioned. Cost efficiency, it's also a challenge. The renewable materials, how to scale up, another challenge, very well identified. The devices, the processes, and the materials challenge related to design to be sustainable. I don't think avoiding waste and emissions in processing, that's another challenge that is also very important. The tracking, of course, and real-time identification materials, which is a big challenge in order to better get end of life, extension of end of life and cost-efficient end of life. Agile, flexible, fast processes, another challenge. Actually, what I've not seen is the integration of renewable energies in the processing, which was one of also of the issues mentioned in the discussions, but again.
Yeah. Marta, I will cut you and we will move to the next one.
Thank you.
But we stick to the production processes and characterization enabler. If you remember, there is this additional question, and here we are addressing the commonalities, the common challenges across the innovation markets. So the floor is still yours, Marta, and please, all of you, add your additional inputs, which this time really should be seen as a transversal to the innovation markets. Most, all, or at least several, if not a few, innovation markets. But
yes, well, actually, I think we have seen already some challenges identifying the previous question regarding these commonalities.
Which commonalities are presented in the box, by the way? You see
Process
ABCD,
optimization, decarbonization, mass customization, zero defect production, multi-materials processing, and new materials processing.
Yeah.
Yes, but I think in the previous question, there were already some inputs that could contribute also to this.
Yes, but please here be more precise. If only mentioning decarbonization, it won't be of much use from our side. Please, provide some concrete
for
examples
instance,
of challenges.
A challenge for process optimization to achieve high product quality and the desired properties and geometric of metallic additively manufacturing components. So this would be an activity would be, for instance, to have some activities around monitoring and of the parameters in the processing of additive manufacturing. For instance, in the field of microelectronics, again, process monitoring would be a challenge and a very important one to achieve reproducibility and identify drift sources. online monitoring again. So in line with what I have just said, online monitoring of material properties and process parameters, processing of the new recyclable materials, achieving, and also the usage of secondary materials and how to achieve high quality products. Materials compatible processes. I'm sure this must be processes for materials compatible with electrification. Multi-materials on additive manufacturing. Again, many challenges here that are common to many markets.
I don't see much inputs on the side of characterization, so please don't forget this topic in your inputs. And we will.
So, yes, actually, we had also some examples in each of the innovation markets regarding characterization techniques that are needed.
Yeah, and we'll finish in a few seconds.
Yes.
Marta, thank you very much. Marta,
thank you.
Switch to the next, which is enabler number 3 about circularity, which is this new dimension we are adding in our agenda, because we didn't have this topic as such, as a standalone topic inside the roadmap. So here we have one priority for now that was expressed explicitly inside the roadmap, and it was actually taken from the topic 2. And so based on this priority and other ones you may have in mind, please, the same question again. Let us know about which important challenges you see to address circularity, suggesting possible activities and telling us where along the value chains we should act. So, question about the performance of secondary materials: will it be as performing as primary materials? So that's a question. That's a prerequisite if you want to reuse these materials. Yes, the question on the criteria, the approaches, the criteria, and that was a point made earlier by Michael. What is circularity about? How to assess it? How to measure it? Some specific question on the debonding on the demand. So that's for the dismantling the end of life segment. Again, here's the quality of secondary materials. The safe and sustainable by design question, how to implement it, how to assess it, dismantling process again, end of life, the question of waste. What criteria to assess the circularity of a value chain? That's an important one. Efficient the recycling processes and the associated business models, the reusing of the recycled products, components, materials, the methodology, the methods behind the recycling, identifying critical materials that are the mostly impacting regarding the European supply chain. So it's about materials, but also energy. So energy efficiency, materials, resource efficiency, high quality recyclates. So again, same question on the performance of secondary materials. Biodegradable materials, that's a point we had this morning in the VG4 meeting. So this is not a priority to address biodegradability, but rather to reuse, not to degrade, but reuse materials. New recycling schemes, and that's associated to the business models, how to create new businesses and new markets. Once you have recycled something, material product, traceability of raw materials. where they end up and how they can be actually refeeding into new chains, new value chains, where the waste and the waste streams are quite important. Which are the streams and how to handle them, which waste goes into which stream. It's not always that straightforward. Energy consumption, so that's the question on energy efficiency, quite important. The question specific to composites, how to recycle composites. Looking at the timing, yeah, okay. Energy efficiency. Okay, the screening in waste materials, what can be recycled, what cannot be recycled. Bio-derived, bio-inspired materials versus the recycled ones versus the biodegradable ones. So some classification of the different materials in their second usage. Production in Europe, important. Material degradation and regeneration. So this is about the performance of secondary materials. What are the new technologies for recycling and reuse? So again, here for dismantling, recovering, refining, and so on. So there is yes, process schemes and production lines to invent, to develop. And to make production worthy. So that's absolutely important, because if we don't secure this end of life segment, we will never get the value chain circular. And I think I will stop here and move to the fourth enabler. Christian, you are ready? Yes, you are. The fourth one being on standards, regulatory and policy framework. And here is the question, again, always the same question, asking for your examples of a challenge, major challenge, possible activities, and which value chain segment. So please, your inputs, and Christian will be commenting them.
Okay, I hope that was not my clock. Yes. If you think about challenges, then we have so far, I would remind you, SSBD, we have the harmonization of norms and standards, we have health and safety protocols, and we have education and training. So what do you see as the challenges deriving from these priority areas? Where are areas we have to work? And yes, it comes in the link of SSBD to the innovation process. Very important that we start very early in the design phase and go then to the materials development. In the same direction goes the alignment of research roadmaps and regulations. So we have to have a look into the, let's say, industry policies of the European Commission for the EU, that we have to align the enabling technology of advanced materials with the prospective regulations, creating awareness of SSBD. Is all going in the same direction, that SSBD is considered the instrument of choice. It has to be make operable for all players in the value chain. Eco-design and circularity, close connections to the already mentioned priorities in circular economy. Intensive participation of industry in standardization processes, so that is something to make sure that all the relevant players are on the table. Procedures and tools to assess and report sustainability compatible and available data. That would be the link to digitalization and data. Safety as part of the CSS, for sure, it will come into place. It's currently under investigation. CSS and REACH redesign. again, eco-design, circularity, environmental impact. It's really going fast. It's a little bit like speed dating. So life cycle assessment methodologies, data, common guidelines for sustainability. And yes, we have methods for measurement and assessment. Very good. That could be handed over to, I guess, to digitalization, of course. Clear definitions and accessibility of norms and standards. I guess very important because we have a heterogeneous landscape right now. When you think of starting initiatives in the beginning at development in RTOs and going over manufacturing and then end of life, they all have different regulations, paperwork, and there's a lot of work to do to digitalize these working streams. Development of materials passports is going into that direction, that we will have a unique data stream that is going all along the value chain or the value circle, and it includes all information that is necessary.
Thank you, Christian.
Thank you very much for your contributions.
You did very well. Thank you. And thank you all for your many inputs. It's really appreciated. And keep the pace, please. We are finishing now part 1, moving to part 2, which will be slightly longer. But yeah, again, please keep the pace. Feed us with as many inputs as you can. Now we will cover these 9 market innovation, 9 questions. And remember, there will be 1 additional and free question at the end about the commonalities on advanced materials. So Eva, we will start with health and medical. So please, your inputs on which challenge, which activities, and which value chain segments for the health and medical. The priorities are reminded in the box.
Okay, so we're starting to go into the third dimension, as it was said jokingly, slightly jokingly earlier. We see here that for health and medical, we have the challenge of real-time sensing, truly biocompatible materials for implants. This is feedback that we also already had for sure in the working group 4 a couple of times. In vivo degradable systems, yes, we have also heard that one and seen that one before. Tailored functional materials was another one that is just disappearing now. Certification schemes already mentioned a couple of times today and an overlap for sure with working group 3. Self-resorbing materials, biocompatible materials, truly biocompatible materials for implants, reproduction failure mechanisms and functions of the implants at the lab phase. So this is regarding durability, especially to avoid the release of toxic particles. Sustainable by design, also here, of course, is a framework that needs to be respected. Biomaterials with full European production chains for secure provision, also in larger scale crises. I guess that is not only valid for biomaterials, but is something that can be applied across all 9 materials innovation markets. Again, we see here the priority of tailored multifunctional materials for additive manufacturing. Sensors is another topic that is named here, the integration of therapeutic and antibacterial delivery systems. Still a challenge. Implantable electronics. Treating large area surfaces with nano or micro-sized materials is extremely challenging. And there is the call on focus or to focus on new methods for the materials deposition and treatment, applying to segment 1 and 2.
Just one comment. I see mostly challenges, but please don't forget to associate suggested activities to these challenges to give us some guidance. Please challenge plus activities.
Yes. Also here in the health and medical market, data protocols to allow for big data learning and artificial intelligence across the hospitals and patients. So I guess across the entire health spectrum, basically. A call for accelerated regulatory approval processes. Again, I guess in overlap with working group 3 here. A call for or development of alternatives to animal testing. Avoiding small and large animal studies. Aging population, globalized population, new diseases are arriving. So, well, I mean, we're just coming out of still somehow stuck in the different stages of a global pandemic. So that does make sense here. Cancer needs personalized treatments is also mentioned with a need for special tailored treatment and medication.
Thank you, Eva. So now we are moving to the next innovation market, which is sustainable construction. So please, same question again, your inputs.
Yes, so keeping in mind the priorities that are shown here to the left, which range from materials for improved energy efficiency to materials with new functionalities. Please let us know where in the value chain you see which challenges arising in the innovation market of construction. Easy to dismantle materials, phase change materials, coatings to filter UV to avoid overheating for windows. So this is heat management, energy harvesting and storage, safe anti-slippery floorings. Concepts for second use of construction materials here tying into the overall circularity theme, which is followed by design for recycling, which needs to be improved, use of recycled materials, materials formed under environmental conditions, standardization of building standards across member states. This is also something that we already touched upon earlier. The transparency, what currently actually is inside of a building, so an entire materials cadastre, if you so wish. New formulas for green concrete, smart materials for energy harvesting, offering autonomy in buildings, so completely autonomous buildings. Recycling of construction wastes, going again into the circularity topic. The durability of materials for sure, also paying in on that account. Functional materials for energy efficient buildings, energy efficiency. There's quite a number of contributions here on the energy efficiency of buildings themselves. And there is, maybe I can make use of a comment that I still have in mind that we got in working group 4 before. Construction is not only about housing, but it's also about infrastructure construction for sure. So please also bear this in mind and maybe tell us the challenges that you might see in this section of the innovation market. Low emission materials, re-evaluation of secondary potentials of existing materials, the circularity topic again, and another mention of circularity. Carbon footprints of the whole product life should be improving. So use of recycled materials, green concretes based on biomaterials, efficient and durable materials, and the acceleration of renovation of existing building stock, actually, which I guess also falls under the umbrella of energy efficiency here. Avoidance altogether of steel in construction. Self-repairing, self-healing materials with new functionalities, and the recycling, the standardization of recycling And if I read this correctly, extend service life. Legal framework to push use of circular materials is called for. And the available amounts of nanomaterials to be used in construction industries. Now, I'm not sure whether this is alluding to the overall available portfolio, but this is for sure a comment that we get here.
Okay, we'll stop with this one and move to the one now on the new energy, innovation market.
Okay. Under the new energy innovation market, please take into account the priorities also that have been pre-formulated: advanced materials for renewable and low greenhouse gas emission, energy production technologies. Second priority was advanced materials for energy storage. And the third one, advanced materials for sustainable transformation of energy intensive industrial processes. Please let us know your thoughts on the main challenges that we will see within the market of new energies. Hybrid renewable technologies, alternatives to lithium-based secondary batteries for storage, for example, magnesium, renewable lubricants for renewable windmills, development, monitor lifetime, end of life across all segments of the value chain, hydrogen effects on materials across the first three sections of the value chain, the materials for offshore renewable energy. So I assume that this mainly applies to wind. Energy materials based on largely available elements. Advanced materials for energy storage. Now, this is maybe a bit broad. Please, if possible, be a bit more specific.
Yes, please specify the challenges and not only dropping materials names.
Yes.
Otherwise, it was try to name the challenges behind your topics.
Also here, there's a couple of comments on, for example, critical raw materials needs and the development of circular value chains. Efficient recycling processes, I think, falls into the same category. Second life, reuse first before recycling, clear. All falls within the span of the 9 Rs under circularity. Innovative materials for high energy density solid state batteries, reduction of need, I guess, of critical raw materials, coatings and lubricants for solar absorption, for example, concentrated solar thermal and PV. So the monitoring of the health status of coatings would then be an important aspect, and this would be applicable or of importance in all 4 segments of the value chain. Access to green energy for fabrication of new energy systems, yeah, clear. So basically we have to be then also holistic here when we talk about green and renewable energy. And there's a general comment on offshore energy generation, wind, tidal wave, photovoltaic. Here's another one that has to do, of course, with the dependency along the value chain. A program is being called for to become less dependent on rare earth minerals. High efficiency magnetic materials in the first segment of the value chain is an input that we receive. And also the need for hybrid materials, including nanomaterials, to be adopted for energy applications. Large-scale deployment of middle-term energy storage to smooth the integration of renewable intermittent energy, clear. Stability on the grid. Non-lithium batteries, 5th generation. Recovering waste heat by thermoelectric materials. End-of-life strategies for offshore sector. And joint recycling hubs operated across, cannot see.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Thanks, Eva. So we move to the next one. Still okay with you? Yeah?
I'm fine.
Good. Congratulations. Sustainable transport. So please, same question again. What are your challenges on sustainable transport priorities?
Good. Sustainable transport priorities, the ones that have been pre-proposed, you can still see on the left-hand side of the slide here, ranging from zero-emission vehicles per se, or going via solid-state batteries, cost-competitive hydrogen fuel systems, lightweight materials, all the way to power electronics and smart devices for transportation, electrification, connectivity, smart mobility, and control. Non-fossil based materials is the first input. Improve the lightweight materials production processes and surface treatments to enhance the lifetime of these materials. Materials for the vehicle life cycles must be increased by orders of magnitude compared to the modern standard. Bio-based materials to increase the sustainability, together with the use of natural fibers. The use of recycled lightweight materials for products is recommended here. Reproduce failure mechanisms to develop energy efficient light materials, monitoring their durability during use and recycling. Competitive e-fuels, e-methanol, e-kerosene, bio-based materials to increase sustainability, natural fibers, better separability of components of vehicles. So here we have the challenge of the multi-component systems, again, regarding circularity. Stop the car obesity. EVs are over-designed in terms of size, and I cannot read the rest of the sentence yet, but there is a clear call for a change in mindset here, performance. Recycling of e-motors, disassembly of multi-materials, which was mentioned before, and this is valid and applicable for value chain segments 1, 2, and 4. Novel functional materials that are safer. Lighter fuel cells. Sustainable materials for tires. And a focus on repairability, battery replacement, and standardization might be a challenge in the market. Transmission fluids for EVs. Too many OEM-specific solutions for EVs. Find a way to, I would assume, standardize or to influence OEMs to provide solutions with better circularity. And this for sure is valid for value chain segments 3 and 4, mainly for use and end of life. Decreasing the material diversity in single vehicles while maintaining the functionality by the one alloy fits all principle. Again, drive a change from individual to collective transportation, so a call for an overall different concept and different approach to the topic.
I see that we have one raised hand. I don't know, Jose, if that can wait for after the session, or if you want to get some clarification now.
Yeah, we could take the question now. It will give some break in the flow. So yes, Jose, please.
Yeah, Jose, I think I don't know if this was a mistake on your side or whether you...
Are you talking to me?
No, it's Jose Tenorio.
Okay, sorry.
No, Jose Tenorio from CICIC.
Yes.
Yeah, Jose. So you
Yes.
raised your hand. Yeah.
No, it's a mistake. Sorry.
Okay.
No, because I'm walking in the street. Maybe I talk with the with my ear. Sorry, I'm sorry.
No, but it's nice.
Okay.
It gives us some oxygen, huh? Nice break. So let's resume. So now we will, so thanks for your inputs on sustainable transport. And now we move to home and personal care. And don't worry, we are approaching MIM 9, so we are close to the end. But still, again, keep the pace, your inputs on home and personal care, the priorities being inside the box.
And thank you, Jose, for the break that you gave me. New functionalities of the materials addressing comfort testing and surface solutions to improve it under the materials innovation market of home and personal care. This one is moving a bit slow. The development of testing protocols, scale-up surface treatments, and decoating processes, taking into account aging population. Please, again, be a bit more specific in terms of the challenges that you see and how you foresee that they could be addressed. There's a need for new sensor concepts, circularity to be addressed by biological circles, so biodegradable materials. Simplicity and do-it-yourself materials, sensors to allow care at home and monitoring, adopt solutions for regulatory approval that avoid animal testing. We had that one before in the health and medical. Increase knowledge and information transmission. Standards to avoid unsubstantiated green claims. That would probably then more also go in the direction of an overlap with Working Group 3 on policies and regulations. Bottlenecks for bio-based raw materials, alternatives, LJ could be considered. The lack of care personnel and the need for robots and sensors. Again, please, if you have ideas how to address, share with us. The recycling of coated materials is another point here, which goes into the direction of multi-component materials, circularity. And here's an evergreen, really understanding the user needs. I think somehow they're repeating now. Avoidance of CRM usage, so avoidance of CRM substance uses. Smart textiles for monitoring assistance, especially I think in probably the care personnel area or.
And this is crossing the other market on textiles.
Yes. Green anti-fouling coatings. Packaging concepts and the respective materials, therefore, that support longer lifetimes and reusability of the material that is packaged.
Okay, we'll move to the next one. So we are progressing well. Now moving to sustainable packaging. Please, priorities being inside the box. Your inputs on the challenges. Please name the challenges you foresee around these advanced materials for sustainability packaging.
And as a quick reminder on the priorities, here we talk mainly about new renewable and recyclable materials, smart protective solutions that have functions such as barrier functions, antimicrobial or antifungal. Of course, the substitution of CMR and SVHC substances, and overall a general design principle for circularity. Avoid non-degradable microplastics, increase food shelf life using bio-based packaging with an improved barrier property. Separation technologies, yes, for multi-materials and packaging, so the multi-component system again. End of waste definition to allow shipping used packaging across borders. So I believe this calls for regulation probably on this topic. The greatest challenge per se is the overall total avoidance of packaging. Yeah. Then again, the methods for classification and separation of packaging material. Standardization over and over. There has been several inputs now here under this innovation market for standardization and characterization needs. Rapid banning of non-recyclable materials. Support new packaging concepts by extremely durable materials that probably then would go into the reuse cycle. Robotic analysis and sorting to facilitate the recycling of packaging materials. Another couple of comments on the separation of waste, the technologies behind the biodegradability of packaging, standards for characterization, avoid multi-component packaging or multi-packaging overall. However, there's also the note here that fully established products and processes make substitutions difficult. Clear, because this would then mean a complete restructuring of value chains. Publicly available data actually on material and treatment of packaging material. Digestible packaging for food. So edibles. Regulation to ban empty, non-filled packaging. So completely superfluous packaging, basically. And again, we have here a call or an idea for advanced energy efficient cooling or thermal protection packaging for sensitive products in order to extend shelf lifespan.
Thanks, Eva. So we are moving to the next one. We have 3 left. So sustainable agriculture. So please, your inputs.
Brief reminder on the predefined priorities or on the pre-proposed priorities in this area. Again, we're talking about advanced surfaces for health and medical applications, development of efficient sensors for measuring maturity of agricultural products, and or for carbon farming. We're talking about the development of sustainable and efficient biotech-based and or biodegradable polymers in agriculture and salt preservation, and the development of advanced surfaces and filters for water and air purification. First inputs are about the development of nanopesticides and smart farming to be established by use of sensors and the Internet of Things. New materials for all type of filters, water, air, nutritions. Use of sustainable fertilizers and or nanomaterials. Sensors for the determination of maturity of the food to collect just when appropriate, so to determine the right point of ripeness for harvest, smart autonomous sensor concepts for farming, related to the first comment about using sensors and the Internet of Things for farming concepts, the adaptation of, well, here a mindset topic, the adaptation of citizens to, so the willingness of citizens to pay for greener products. And we have another input point on materials that actually enable regenerative agricultural practices. Please also specify in these cases, give examples, ideas, what you mean. Smart farming by the use of drones, for example, which fits very well into the new farming concepts using sensors and Internet of Things. Add drones to the list. Using lightweight materials in agricultural machines. Bio-based materials for greenhouse setups. Using artificial intelligence to minimize food waste overall. Materials for efficient urban agriculture. Maybe this could even be bordering actually on the construction materials market. Cleaning of the soil from excess fertilization, so eutrophisation. Smart Internet of Things systems, including various sensors, growth fertilizers, soil composition, humidity, and pH. And here we see another one on vertical farming, actually. That is a closed system that enables efficient use of nutrients and zero fertilizers. Concepts for collecting and distributing waters, so water supply in farming. Autonomous systems overall for farming, drones, robots, automation, sensors.
Okay, we move to the next one, the penultimate innovation market, the one on sustainable textiles. So 4 priorities in the box. So please, all your inputs.
Don't mix different types of fibers. That is indeed a comment we have also had a couple of times and heard a couple of times in the meetings of working group 4 so far. So basically this is the multi-component problem applied to the textiles market. Green energy supply for the factories, yes, to make the production process overall more sustainable. Use of biofibers, development of multifunctional fibers, for example, with sensing and acting capability. The substitution of harmful halogen-containing coatings for other hydrophobic solutions. Textiles for increased lifetime of products. Recycling technologies that are able to handle complex inputs. And here is a bit of a contrary input to what we saw before. Here's an input asking to ban smart textiles using electronics due to poor recyclability. On the other hand, we have the challenge of, or the need for smart sensors to be integrated into textiles. Combined with multifunctional textiles for vital function sensoring, which is of course closely overlapping with the home, personal care, and medical and health markets. Smart stitching, easy to dissolve. So I believe this would probably be then under the umbrella of recyclability or circularity. new business models for end of life of textiles. Use fibers or develop fibers that are less prone to fiber loss during washing, which is one of the major sources of microplastics. Disbonding on command of textile assemblies. So again, the multi-component mixture problem. Also here in this innovation market, the need for characterization standards. Develop cross-brand tags necessary for digital product passport, track and trace, and collection and recycling schemes. Improvement of flame retardant aspects across segments 1 to 3 of the value chain. To incentivize the manufacturing of textiles in the European Union to address the issue of poor labor conditions in textile factories globally. Functional fibers here for the construction applications with increased recyclability. So we're going beyond the classic clothing market and more into structural fibers.
Okay, and now we are moving to the last innovation market on electronics appliances. And there will be a last question afterwards, but this is the last innovation market. So let's start with it. Please, your inputs.
And let me briefly remind you of the suggested priorities under this innovation market. Here we had advanced multifunctional materials for environmental protection, heat dissipation. We had advanced coatings and substrates for electronics, for example, flexible electronics, and the CRM avoidance, replacement or recycling electronic devices. Tech solutions to extend lifetime of products in the electronics appliance markets, bio-based, non-fossil based materials for electronics, recyclability, longer lifetime, disassembly of parts. So this again goes into the circularity direction. Develop fair, realistic labels for raw material suppliers. So also here probably this could go into the direction of product passports, social standards, same as for textiles. Design for recycling and complete export ban for such products. I assume that this would be complete export ban for the waste of such products. To support CRM substitution, research and innovation on conductive polymers. Design to recycle technologies, for example, reverse cure adhesives. Disassembly of electronic boards to recover materials. And again, the call for methodologies to assess the robustness and lifetime of electronics appliances in this case. Miniaturization of energy harvesting for electronics. So one could think, for example, about triboelectricity. Replace, or rather minimize, the use of aggressive chemicals used in electronics manufacturing. Thermal management, including flame retardancy of electronics, cooling solutions to reduce energy consumption of power electronics. And the excessive electronic waste is handled in too few locations, and thus develop supplier mandates to take back the waste. improve the collection rates, I assume again by waste or for waste by new business models. And the biggest challenge is energy use in ICT. We must develop devices at all stages that consume little energy. So for example, low energy computing architectures, integration of memory and logic and moves from Neumann architecture. Longer availability of spare parts, of course, then going in the direction of being able to repair.
And that's it. Thank you very much. And so now we are left with the very last question, the very last slide, which is, remember about materials, advanced materials commonalities. This is a point we discussed this morning in VG4. We do have these commonalities listed inside the roadmap, but as we want to revise it in depth, this is a list you see there is no box on this slide. We didn't want to take to the question, this list. So here it's rather an open question on which challenges you see that would be common to different applications, which materials challenges. So please, if you could name these challenges along with innovation markets you see. So please specify the markets that are associated with these challenges being common.
I think, well, the first one that shows up here is really valid across all 9 materials innovation markets, which is the productivity and or competitiveness with non-European markets, followed by the request for common standards across all member states, raw material supply risks, sustainable materials and production processes, end-of-life recycling of metal scrap, explore solid-state recycling, so circularity umbrella again. Light materials production things to reduce consumption during transport and production. Here's a very broad one that for sure summarizes all the others: to develop all materials that can help close the loop across all markets. Here, of course, we would then need to go a bit more in depth and understand what actually these materials or materials classes could be. Lack of a solid industrial policy to convert EU innovation into EU jobs. That's more on the policy side. Looking at the working group 3 chairs here. Advanced materials are so far designed by far too complex to be recycled. Real innovative push needed by design for recycling, so recyclability and commercial incentives for the use. Energy efficiency of computing again for Internet of Things. Simple methods to assess materials for sustainable use, all sectors. So this goes more into the life cycle methodologies, I think. Securing the industrial basis overall in the European Union. Another big challenge currently for sure is the competitiveness due to energy price fluctuations and CO2 taxation. Nevertheless, I mean, these are rather general, and I guess this does not only apply to advanced materials. So please try and focus your answers a bit more on advanced materials, common challenges. New bio-derived materials to avoid petrochemical resource use. energy, sustaining the increasing need for energy supply while respecting the requirements for sustainable development. The present non-connected ecosystem, meaning the lack of a governance that secures fair, transparent, and beneficial collaborations. And there is a clear need that is being submitted here for a push to select novel materials that are not only functional, but also environmentally friendly. So again, it's about policy framework. Development of qualification procedures for structural applications early in the development, decreasing implementation costs, which also means that characterization needs to be optimized at early stages. There is a lack of skilled workforce in advanced materials as another point. And here we have traceability of material properties for the sake of recycling. So there's a wide spectrum of challenges that present themselves here.
Yes, Eva, and this will be your last words. So we are, yes, many thanks. So we are now terminating the survey. So the first comment from my side is a big thank you to all of you for these many inputs you provided and for your patience to go all the way through this long survey. Thanks to Eva as well for your knowledge and agility to skip from one topic to another one. I don't think it's doable, nor we have the time to debrief on this large amount of information, which is cross topics, cross many things. So this is an exercise we will do offline after the workshop to process all this information. And based on the information, we will the conclusion we'll draw and the information we'll extract from this raw material. We will design the next step of this process and come back to you for the next phase. But again, many thanks, and I will hand over the word to you, Philippe, to
thank you
close the workshop.
Thank you, Jérôme. And thanks to all of you for this great input. I think that indeed that was really very rich, and well, this input will be consolidated, analyzed, consolidated, and we will feed the upcoming work of the working groups. So if you have not yet joined the initiative, just quickly a reminder, don't hesitate, go on the AMI2030.eu website. You will find there an online form to register, and by indicating the topics, some materials that are to be recycled here, okay, but and so and don't hesitate to register to join the working groups. So you can just indicate really what are the fields that are relevant for you, and automatically you will be invited to the next meetings of the relevant working group. So again, thanks a lot. We keep in touch. Thanks for your time. Thanks for your contribution, and see you soon. Bye-bye.